Dr. Mary Ann Young Okada graduated from the University of Guam with a Bachelor of Business Administration in Accounting and Management and a master's degree in Public Administration, and received her doctorate in Educational Leadership from the University of Phoenix. Dr. Okada became the first female and longest-serving president and CEO of the Guam Community College in June 2007. Under her leadership, GCC has advanced its support to increase the capacity of the island's skilled workforce through innovative programs such as work-ready boot camps, added and developed new programs including GCC's first Bachelor of Science in Career and Technical Education, and undergone campus modernization through new construction and the renovation of 8 buildings. Prior to becoming president, Dr. Okada served as the college's vice president of financial affairs, controller, and accounting supervisor. Her fiscal guidance has resulted in more than 2 consecutive decades of clean audits for GCC and the awarding of numerous grants and low-interest federal loans that have allowed for campus upgrades even in the face of severe fiscal challenges. Dr. Okada served on the President's Advisory Commission on Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders under President Barack Obama from 2014 to 2016. She also serves on numerous local, regional, and national workforce and post-secondary education organizations. She is a commissioner for the Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges, chair of Pacific Post-Secondary Education Council, chair of the Guam Education Board, vice chair for Pacific Resource for Education and Learning, member of the Guam Contractors Association Trades Academy Board, WestCare Foundation Board, Air University Board of Visitors, Community College of the Air Force, Archdiocese of Agana Finance Council, St. Francis Catholic School Parent Alumni Organization, Asia Pacific Association for Fiduciary Studies, and the Guam Women's Chamber of Commerce. Dr. Okada won the U.S. Small Business Administration 2020 Women in Business Champion of the Year Award and the Professor John M. Phillips Excellence in Government Accountability Award in 2013. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of applause for Dr. Mary A.Y. Okada.
I'm going to take this off so I can be a little bit more comfortable. But just recognize that I'm a little bit nervous. Every engagement that I've had, I'm learning how to be a better speaker and to get comfortable in my element. So just bear with me. So first of all, my name is Mary Ann Young Okada. I grew up in the village of Santa Rita. I was born in Washington State and moved to Guam with my family, my mother, and I'm the third of 5 siblings. The middle child. Single parent, my mom was a single parent. We moved back to Guam in 1971. I grew up in Santa Rita and attended school in Agate and Mount Carmel, went on to Notre Dame, and then of course here at the University of Guam. I have a wonderful husband, David. Many of you know David here as an employee of the University of Guam. I have 2 great children, Tiara, married to Michael Shelley, and 2 wonderful grandchildren, Zephyr and Evie. And my daughter, Kimmy, is a student here at the University of Guam pursuing her bachelor's degree in public administration. I would say that I come from very humble beginnings because I was my grandmother's tail. I was always in my grandmother's skirt and trying to learn the language. And I knew best when I was in trouble because I understood it best when she spoke to me in Chamorro. And I was, always having to learn that. But hanging out with Grandma at the time was the ability to be resilient, to learn how they survived the war. I learned how to bake. I learned how to clean. I learned how to just enjoy life. And that was, with my grandmother during those early years because, as I mentioned, my mom was a single mother, and so we spent a lot of time with Grandma and Grandpa. As mentioned earlier, I am a graduate from the University of Guam. My husband is a graduate. My daughter is here at the University of Guam. So we are vested. We are vested in this university, and we look forward to its continued success to support our island, our community, and our region. Many of the things that I have been able to do through my leadership really focuses around building plans. We have technology plans, infrastructure facility plans, we have our master plan. Of course, we follow accreditation standards, so we do our assessment plans, we do program review, and all of that information is wonderful for us because it gives us the data, it gives us the information that we need to make decisions. And so one of the things I've learned throughout the years is that these strategic plans and all of these other types of plans really has allowed us to advance our organization. And it serves as the guideline. It serves as the way forward for us. And focusing on those plans, it tells us where we need to provide our energy, where we need to identify resources, and to some extent, some things that we may not be doing so well or maybe don't have enough data to support it, maybe archive it for a little while so that when it's needed at a later time that we can go back and bring those increased, once we do curriculum review and update or modernization of that curriculum, that we'll be able to provide that to students so that they become relevant when they are in the community and seeking those jobs. And like I said, everything starts with a plan. Before I do a building, the A&E is done because I have to know what the building is going to look like before I start to ask folks for money. And I'll tell you, I've been quite successful, and my team has been quite successful in garnering funding to support facilities. Many years ago, I would share that we had a quadrant of the college that was about $24 million worth of construction with 4 buildings. And the debt associated with it was $2.5 million. And so we've leveraged and found ways to find grants and leverage all that funding to build the facilities that we have today. And those 4 buildings we didn't stop at those 4 buildings. We now have 8, 9, and 10 are on its way. 11 is ready for construction. We're waiting for the authorization, and it goes on because people want to support the work that we do. And we've been able to provide, that strategic foresight as to what we need for the institution and to support our students, and then to be, of course, held accountable and trustworthy in terms of all the funds that are given to us. As I mentioned, we always talk about facility master plans, technology plans, distance education plan. During the pandemic, we had to update our distance education plan because that's the way students were learning. But post-pandemic, it still remains with us. We're still offering some form of distance education for our students because some students don't want to come back to the campus just yet, but they still want to pursue their degree. So we're still offering that to them. In terms of, I will stand here and I'll admit, academics and research is not my forte, but that doesn't mean that I can't support academics and research. When we started building the facilities on campus, we thought about sustainability. That was the buzzword, and that's where funding was being led, and so we had to do research. And today, we have soon to be 8 buildings with photovoltaic panels on our roof, and we are generating power for our campus. And so we've had to research, what does it mean? How much power can we generate? What does net metering mean? Why do I need to collect rainwater to flush the toilets? Why do I need to take the concrete that we used when the building was taken down and have it all crushed up and used for the parking lot? Why was that important? Because we adopted sustainability as our baseline for construction and renovation. But that was an institutional effort, an institutional commitment that was supported by the board. And so we've been able to do those. I have good relationships with the legislature. I have a good relationship with the governor and previous governors. I have relationships with those that are in the judicial system because we want to make sure that we are providing the education needed to support our students. Every senator in the legislature wants what's best for Guam. When I talk about sustainability, off the top of my head, I'll tell you, Senator Sabina Perez is on track with us with sustainability, and she likes the progress that we have. When during the pandemic, one of the innovative ideas that came from our administration really was, and many of you may have heard it, was the setup of these boot camps. And the boot camp model that we identified was looking for employers that were looking for workers and providing them with the necessary tools to give them the entry-level job. So we partnered with businesses. We provided the boot camps anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks, and the commitment by the employer was to hire the leaders. And we've continued that on and on and on. So truck drivers you see on the road, those are products of that particular innovation. I've served on several boards and commissions, and I'll tell you right now, the one board that really resonates a lot with me is the West Care Foundation Board, because they provide services for those that really need it. They provide support for those that are on drug addiction. They support mothers that are carrying children that have been on drugs. They support veterans. They support the homeless. And so those kinds of projects are things that, we see them in our community, and I just wanted to get involved. I wanted to see what it is that I can do to help advocate for those individuals. One of the most pressing issues right now for many of us, whether it be the K-12 system or post-secondary education, is right now the higher education emergency funds are coming to an end, but the funding that we have used to support social, emotional, and mental health of our students, our faculty, and our staff is not something that I can let go of. Because just because the money runs out doesn't mean the services aren't needed. So we're going to have to find a way to fill that gap to continue to provide the services. Because folks are struggling at all levels. They're struggling, and we want to make sure to provide the support that they need. I've had opportunities to engage with, as I mentioned, folks here in the local community. I've had conversations with folks in Washington, D.C. at the federal level, and of course at the regional level as well. I am a member of the Pacific Post-Secondary Education Council, which comprises of all the presidents for the community colleges and the four-year universities of the Hawaii system. And so we've engaged in several conversations, and a lot of that conversation has to do with helping to build a capacity for our region, enter into articulation agreements so that students can continue their program seamlessly throughout the system and provide the supports that is needed. There is a provision in there for boards and commissions to be trained and to provide the training necessary for them to carry out their duties as well. In terms of funding for the college, we used to think that the U.S. Department of Education was our only revenue source. And since 2007 and being able to navigate through the federal system, we now have received money from the National Science Foundation, Department of Interior, U.S. Department of Energy. We've received recently an EDA grant. I've been able to use money from FEMA. We've been able to use all sorts of funding opportunities that we've weaved together for particular projects. I can't wait for one project to be funded to roll it out because I'll be waiting for a long time. So we've been able to patch the funding together to make sure that that happens. And of course, getting support from the legislature and from the governor as well to help us advance in the capital projects for our campus. And so I've got a lot of experience in terms of leveraging financial resources and building buildings. I love building buildings. I thought at one time I was Bob the Builder, but I would have to change my name, and that wasn't going to be, necessary for me. But buildings are what bring, recognition. If you haven't driven by the campus, take a look. It looks different. And if it doesn't look different every year that you come by, then I need another project. Right now we have 2 buildings that are just about ready for occupancy, and we've got 2 in the pipeline and 1 ready to go out to bid. So we've been keeping busy in terms of facility improvements, and that's going to help us when we have facilities for certain areas, help us build the capacity and build the enrollment for our students, because the last session I had, enrollment is declining, but we're going to try to help facilitate increased declining on that based on the programs that we have and those that we're able to support. One project I will share that we started a couple of years ago, right before the pandemic, was a symposium on diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that project was a very successful project for us because we wanted to hear the voice of those in our community that were underrepresented. We were graced by the presence of John and James Cruikshank. John was the senior policy advisor for the National Science Foundation, and his twin brother used to be the senior policy advisor for HUD. And so those 2 gentlemen really embraced diversity, equity, and inclusion. And we provided the platform for them at the campus. And this past January, we offered the second of that symposium so that we can understand the unique needs of members of our community that maybe wouldn't want to step forward, but we provided them with that space and that opportunity to step out of their comfort zone and share with us how is it that they can remain inclusive in the environment that we offer. So I know that there may be a lot of questions that you have, and so I wanted to just take this time and close up and then entertain any questions. Like I said earlier, my family and I are invested in this university, and we are committed to the success of the University of Guam because the university is strategically poised in its current capacity and can really help elevate the island nations that surround us in Micronesia. So with that, I'd like to close up and say thank you very much, and I look forward to the questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Dr. Okada. Ladies and gentlemen, we have 2 microphones right by the stage. You are welcome to come forward to ask your questions. If you would not like to ask the questions publicly, Mr. James Hollier has some blank cards that you can write your question on, and I can read them out for you. Dr. Swan?
Thank you. Let's see. I was going to write it, but my handwriting is illegible, so. I have 2 questions, one of which everyone's going to ask you, which is, what will we do about our salary increase? That's the question. And whoever looks at your priorities, what will you do if the legislature doesn't fund? Everyone's going to ask you that. So I'm going to add on a second question. Can you explain how running a community college is different from a 4-year university with a master's in research program, and how will you adapt that?
Okay. So the first one, of course, has to do with the request for the faculty salaries. I will share with you my experience in dealing with the faculty salaries because in 2009 we were faced with the same situation at the college. In 2009 we had an external evaluation of the salary structure for all of our faculty members, and in that evaluation it took into consideration what similar colleges were offering, and at that time it was 2009. And how the college benchmarked in terms of their salary and their professorial ranks, the different ranks that we have based on the market. And so as a result of that, the college implemented a phased-in approach because in the establishment of the pay scale wasn't just step 1, 2, 3 to 10. It was step 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, 2A. So we created sub-steps. And in addition to that, what we packaged that with was an evaluation system that actually paid for performance. So we don't do across-the-board pay for faculty, it was actually performance-based. And that was all supported by union, and it was presented to our board of trustees. And in that implementation, there was an opportunity for us to identify if we were going to take the 10th percentile, the 20th percentile, or the 25th percentile. Those were the cost comparisons that we were using at the time, 2009. In 2013, I believe we did an update to that study. So we implemented the 10 percentile to start off, just to get us onto a new evaluation, onto a new pay scale. In 2013, I believe it was, we did a revisit to that salary compensation scale, that model. And at that time, because markets were declining, we were still up to par in terms of the compensation. We are now on the 2019 compensation. We have a compensation scale for faculty at the 2019 market. This happened during COVID or right before COVID, and we didn't implement, because of COVID, we didn't implement it until 2022. So we're currently in a 2019 model with the implementation date in 2022. How we've done it is because we are taking the percentile approach. We initially started at the 10th percentile. I believe we're at the 20th percentile now, but it allows us to phase in the cost requirement so that it's not a major fiscal impact to the college budget. And we presented it to the legislature. It was our priority because we were losing faculty. It was our priority. So the board and the administration made an effort to support that institutional priority. If it meant that we had to hold off on something else, we could not afford to lose the faculty. So, and understand that we have faculty both at the secondary level, because we have 45 faculty that teach in the 6 public high schools, and we have faculty at the post-secondary level that teach at the GCC campus. So it was a concerted effort for us to get our faculty scales up to par, combined with the evaluation tool that actually paid for performance. So faculty for a while, since 2009, have had the opportunity to earn anywhere from 1% to 4% every single year. Therefore, if you look at the salaries of our faculty now, some have done extremely well and are paid considerably well based on that model. We have 20 steps and 4 sub-steps per step. So if you get 4, each sub-step is 1%, and so if you get 4 sub-steps, then you get a 4% increment on an annual basis. All of the evaluations are done on an academic year, so everybody is on the same timeline. So every August, the first pay period of August, all the increments take effect, and that's factored into our budget on an annual basis. Based on this last update we did, there was a recommendation by the consultant that did the review for us to revisit the evaluation, revisit the compensation plan every 3 to 5 years. And so we're in 2023. That study was based on 2019, and so we're ready now to do another evaluation to see where we are, to get us back up to 2023. So that's where we are. Like I said, it became an institutional partner. Of course, there is a difference between a community college and a 4-year university. I've learned a lot about the 4-year university. The college right now has one bachelor's degree program, which is in career and technical education, and it really is taking those that have degrees in career and technical fields to bring them up to a bachelor's degree so that they can have, or they can avail of teaching opportunities for like our high school programs, for example. So we provide that as a Bachelor of Science in Career and Technical Education. It was recently approved by the Commission for Junior Colleges a couple of years ago. COVID interrupted our cohort, and so we're resetting to see if we can get that back and going. But really it was to provide faculty, teaching faculty for our specific areas. Other areas that you mentioned, yes, the difference is research. We don't do research at the community college level, but as I mentioned earlier, just because I don't have experience in research doesn't mean I can't support research. And the reason why I say that, and not to continue picking on Dr. Shelton, but the programs that he has here at the university are research-based. The sustainability efforts that he makes, I talked about sustainability and how we had to research it, we're seeing the impacts of those on our campus. And so just because I don't know enough about it doesn't mean I can't, in my area of expertise, which is finance, help to support and provide the resources necessary to continue that research. I mentioned having a conversation several weeks ago with the Fisheries Commission. A lot of that is research. And I was sitting on that commission, listening to that panel or discussion, because it impacts our society. It impacts our region, because if you look at the budgets of the institution or the organizations in the region, a lot of their money to support their islands comes from fishery. So we need to make sure that we continue to support that research, so that we continue to support these economic development activities that are available, not just for Guam, but for our region as well. So yes, there's a big difference. I think the leadership role that I would hold for the college versus the university, I think I have expertise in leadership that would help facilitate the support that is needed for the various programs here at the University of Guam.
Question?
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Okada, for answering our questions today. I'm Chris Rasmussen. I'm an assistant professor of history here and also the humanities representative to the Faculty Senate. And some of my questions you were just addressing. And so, your resume is incredibly impressive, but it does, like you've noted, you haven't been a member or been part of the faculty. And you haven't done peer-reviewed research. And so I just wanted you to talk some more about how you, whether that will affect your ability to advocate for UNT faculty, and maybe how you'll compensate for that.
So I think my compensation in order to support the faculty is really to listen to what the faculty, you're the experts in your particular areas. You're the experts in the research. Just because I don't have the expertise doesn't mean I can't listen to what your needs are and to help you facilitate moving and advancing your programs forward. So I'll admit I don't have the academic background. I don't have the research background. But I think my leadership style has been such that I've been able to manage the community college for the last 16 years. And I've done it well. I have a great team. I've built a great team. And we're able to support academics, the facilities and maintenance. We've been able to support students. We've been able to support business functions of the institution. So where I lack, I will compensate. I lean on those that have the expertise, because I don't. There's a lot of excellent activities or programs that are here at the university. They didn't crop up overnight. There's a lot of institutional knowledge here. And I'm not in any position to say, well, that's not going to be relevant, because there's a process to determine that relevance. It's called program review. It's called, articulation, right? It's called, what is the impact of this research having on our communities? It's being innovative. Think of different ways to do things. You're the experts. I'm not going to try to say that I can do what you do. I have my strength, and that, I'll admit, is my weakness. But I'm here to support. I'm here to engage in conversations so that we can continue to move the university forward.
We have a question on the other side.
Hi, good afternoon, Dr. Okada. I have a more directed question. So you've been GCC president since 2007. Right now, GCC completion rate is 17 to 19%, whereas UOG has jumped from 26 to 48% completion rate. What is the problem and why haven't you or GCC been able to increase that completion rate?
Okay, so remember that the community colleges, the type of individuals that are attracted to the community college really is a lot of folks that are already engaged in work. And so oftentimes they come to the community college and they take courses to get the next promotion, but not necessarily a degree. The community college isn't always for individuals that want to seek a degree. But because of how IPEDS reports them, IPEDS takes them as non-completers. But what is important also to us is not only the completion rate, because it takes them a little bit longer. It's not 150%, it's not 200%, which means 4 years to finish a 2-year degree. It's also the persistence rate for individuals and being able to track them. So we've, through our integrated database system, which is similar to your colleague system, we're able now to track students and where they are towards graduation. And there have been many times where faculty have engaged in intrusive intervention and advising for students to help them get through. Several years ago, we did a run of the database and said, how many students have 60 college credits and no degrees? And we reached out to them and said, you have all of these credits, don't lose them, let's get you to completion. Because they don't know. And so we did that many years ago. Of course, COVID interrupted that, but we're looking forward to doing that again. But as I said, the community college, so many different folks from different aspects of the community, they come in to take a course, they get the advancement, they get the job promotion, and then they don't come back. But they're considered part of the IPEDS data, so we have to report them. So we have been actively engaging individuals in trying to get them to degree completion. At the same time, we're trying to recruit and retain them so that they can persist through their educational programs.
I want to ask you about buildings. I like buildings, in particular a School of Engineering building and even more particular, a new fine arts building or performance center. What would you bring, a little more specifically, do you see us getting those under your administration within 3 to 5 years?
So the first one was engineering building, and the second one is a fine arts. Okay, so I know the engineering building is on its way and should be, understand, but I think it's so close to starting construction, probably the closest it's ever been through the conversation. I know that the School of Engineering and the Student Center are connected in terms of the USDA loan. I have experience with the USDA loan. I've had 3 USDA loans, long-term 40-year low-interest loans. I've not lived the life of the 40 years. 2 of the buildings have been paid off. I have 1 left. A $5 million loan that we took out about 5-6 years ago, and we owe about $3.8 million. So working right now to pay that off so I can borrow more money. But that's been what we've been able to do. We leverage the most of the A&E comes out of our foundation, and based on how the debt ceiling of the government of Guam is being used, the loan comes from the foundation, or has come from the GCC Foundation, and so they've been able to secure funding for the buildings that we've had. And most recently, and I will share this with you. Several years ago when ARA came through, the American Reinvestment Act money, we got a windfall of funding. And one of the things we were very deliberate about was using the ARA funding for long-term investment. Therefore, we cashed out the Student Center. That's how we did it. Now that the higher education emergency relief funds have been made available for the past several years, there are actually 3 major construction projects that we've been able to build. One was the generator housing and a generator to support the continuity of operations for the business area, all the business processes, so our finance office, financial aid, all of that. So we used funding for that, for the generator. And then this most recent approval that we got from the U.S. Department of Education was to convert the current multi-purpose auditorium into a full-on culinary kitchen in the back, and the front part of it will now be all of baking. And the reason for it was because social distancing did not allow for all of those cohorts to be in that same space. So we used the social distancing and the need to expand the program as a means to get authorization to use $1.9 million for that. So we've tapped FEMA money, and FEMA has been, we've used actually FEMA on 2 projects on the campus. I'm not quite sure about the condition or where the Fine Arts Building is on the list of priorities for the University of Guam. I'm not saying it's not important, but it's something I would definitely look at. Like I said, the engineering building, I think, is on its way to starting real soon. I mean, I did a campus tour earlier, and so I saw the location of where it's going to be. I think there's a lot of support. The student center's coming down already, so you can see that there's movement in terms of that component associated and connected with the U.S. Department of Agriculture loan. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. I have some questions from the audience, and I'm going to read them in the order in which I received them. How important are graduation and retention rates? What is an example of strategies you've used from your current institution to improve graduation rates?
So, like I said, we have a module in our Illusion banner system that actually allows a student to track through degree completion. So if a student went into their portal and they declare a degree, what is going to happen is they're going to be there's a software that populates all the requirements for that program, and so a student can track what courses are needed to complete that program, and each student is assigned a faculty advisor. And faculty advisors often review the list of their advisees to see where they are in terms of their academic progress. A student can also go in and change their major or provide if-then scenarios. So if you're in criminal justice now and you wanted to move into human services and you selected human services as the degree that you wanted to complete, then it will populate the courses that are needed to complete that degree program. But it also identified courses that are pass-through. In other words, courses that you take that are not related to the degree. And so it allows you to track it. So we do track graduation rates. They are important to us. And like I said, having an academic advisor and being able to provide the electronic tool for students to see where they are in terms of progress, and then providing the intervention to taking a look at those students that have completed their college credits to see where they are and how close they are to completing, enables us to gauge how many students are nearing completion and also identify what courses that might be needed for them to complete the degree program.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. We have a question from Dr. Casper Bauer.
Thank you very much. Welcome to UOG. As some of you may know, I've been identified with UOG since 1967. So I've experienced quite a few university leaders coming and going from on island and off island. I haven't made up my mind which ones, whether it makes a difference or not. The question I have is, I understand the university budget has been going down. In fact, I think it's gone down about a third in the last 5 years. Are you experiencing the same thing? From what I'm hearing, it doesn't sound like it.
No, sir.
Yes. No. Why is that? I'm sorry. Maybe you suggested it. It sounds like you have extremely good relationships with the community, the business community, and so on. The second question then is, I sometimes wonder if we've forgotten that this is a university and now a Sea Grant university. and spending my bachelor's, master's, and doctorate at land-grant University, Iowa State. The three branches of land-grant University were well recognized: research, teaching, and community service. Community service being four parts: one for the youth, the 4-H in particular, one for the farmers, agriculture, another. A third was primarily focusing on females or women in the home economics and other kinds of things. And what did I have? Agriculture, youth, 4-H, and community service. I don't, and maybe it's a matter of us not doing so much on radio and TV or newspapers nowadays and spreading our word. But I don't seem to hear much about what we're doing with all those three equal parts of the university. What is your knowledge or feeling about the direction of the university on these three parts?
I think if the University of Guam started to amplify the work that they've done through the community, that they would be able, and I want to connect your two questions together. If you start to amplify all the work that you've done and all the research you've done and all the benefit that you have to the community, whether it be through social media or through publications or through conversations with individuals, I think that's going to help garner support for increased funding. I would also say that there's a lot of great work that is done here at the university, and you're right, sometimes you don't hear a lot about it. But in the programs that you hear a lot of, those are the programs that are getting the recognition from the local community, the recognition from the regional community, and the recognition from the national community. And you just need to spotlight, to the extent that you can, all of the great work that's here. When Dr. Margaret Hattori Yukujima was here, all of her work in nursing was out in the community. Everybody knew what benefit it meant to the community. That should be amplified in terms of the work that the Marine Lab does. Sustainability is all over the place. I mean, you hear them all the time. You see them everywhere. But I think the social media really is embedded in the folks, all of the people that have graduated from the university. They're the best person to tell the story and how the university has helped them succeed in their various careers. Every single entity here in the University of Guam, you've heard it. There are graduates from the University of Guam in every sector on this island. Start speaking the successes of those individuals. Start helping to use or encourage them to become mentors for students that are here. And like I said, I have a great relationship with many of the senators, and I often visit them. I let them know what I'm going to ask for in the budget before the budget hearing comes up. And I ask them what their questions are before the budget hearing so that I can get a sense of where they're going in terms of the support. I think one year, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I asked for less money than I had the current year. But it was because of the energy savings that we were having from our photovoltaics. Well, that's not the case because now the power's gone up. So now I'm going to turn that back and say, well, my power's gone up, so I need more money. But it's not going to be as much as I would like to. A couple of years ago, when we rolled out the boot camps, one of the senators said, I really love this program, let's increase it another $1 million. And it really is demonstrating, being accountable, showcasing, and providing a result that people can resonate with. But it truly is in the conversations that you have with these elected leaders. It's important. You have to build the relationships with them. And then once you build those relationships, continue to nurture them. Continue inviting them up here. All those that oversee the sustainability, bring Senator Perez up here. Those that are interested in weary research, invite them. Let them see the great work that's done up here. Get them on your side. find out what their interests might be. Every time the federal government changes, I'm in Washington, D.C. to find out the priorities in Washington, D.C. Because all of that conversation is going to flow back in terms of funding. And we use the buzzwords when it comes to grant writing. Those are often what they're looking for in order to provide funding support. So there's different mechanics to it, but once you build a relationship, continue to nurture that so that you can look at opportunities. Maybe we needed to be at the front when they started recognizing all this excess revenue. Okay, now it's spent. We need to be at the front. These are the needs. I used to present two kinds of budget, standard budget and a growth budget. And oftentimes pieces of that growth budget became part of my increased appropriation because it was something that would be beneficial to the community. I couldn't quite fund it, but since then we've merged the two. But it's been a reasonable budget. It's been supported by many of the senators, and the first knock on the door is the appropriations chair.
Okay, and thank you, Dr. Okada. We have one last question from Dr. Farber.
Hi. As noted earlier, I want to go back to Arun's Dr. Swami's earlier question and just get a little more specificity. You said some things that were very made me home. We've studied this issue of faculty salary to death. In 2001, we noted that the administrators had increased their scale by 28% while the faculty had none. In 2002 to 2003, they formalized that and gave further increases to their scale. There was talk in the 2006 through 12 of increasing faculty. We got a few percentage, but then when the big promises came, suddenly GovCon did the massive increase of civil servants and the university did staff. Some faculty were put aside again, and we did. So that we've seen, as I've noted many times, including the compounding, 11% of our scale since 1992. And so here we are today. As if we were to take salary freezes, which if the trends continue, could happen, if we were to take cuts, we would be at a gross inequitable position for the rest of the university things right now. The administrators are probably on a 2009 scale with their 2022 increases. The faculty haven't even got that, and now we see there's going to be mandated increases to staff. This thing's been studied to death. A plan was made. Regents, it was finally gotten before the regents over the past 2 years. It's been through the full university community. Everyone recognizes that this absolutely needs to happen. And so the regents passed the resolution back in November to do a two-phase thing. And one key part of it was to immediately increase the scale by 20%. So given that, and the faculty are all expecting and hoping, but we've been made fearful by the recent GovCon trends, and so you noted it, it's all about priorities. So I guess my question is, given this situation and the current extreme inequity that faculty face in terms of our salary competition, when October comes, should our budget fall short, would you push to prioritize the faculty scale and have the university face other areas of our plans and development and the rest in order to ensure that the faculty get this? Would this be and I know it's a difficult question, sorry, but I'm going to ask all three. Would the faculty's salary increase as planned by the regents be a priority?
So in terms of being able to recruit, retain students, it's just as necessary to recruit and retain faculty. So I don't know the overall financial picture of the University of Guam. I'd like to look at it and identify where there might be some things that can be held off so that we can accommodate this priority. I would have to look at the total, the budget of the university, because there might be some funds that are available, but is it available and are we able to sustain it in the long term? Because if you put something aside today, like deferred maintenance, is it going to cost us 2 or 3 times that amount if we suspend it? I'm not saying deferred maintenance is a priority over the faculty compensation. What I'm saying is I need to take a look at the total budget of the university, identify all the funding sources that are available, and maybe and identify ways to reprioritize or to secure those fundings so that this particular component can be prioritized. But as important it is to, again, as I said, recruit, retain, and graduate students, it's important for us that we have the faculty needed so that students can be successful. Once you pair those two things up, it's very difficult to say it would not be a priority. But I just have to take a look at the total picture of the university finances, because I don't know all the intricacies of it.
Thank you, Dr. Okada. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the faculty presentation with Dr. Okada. How about a round of applause, please?